Homage to our fundamental teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to Manjushri, the embodiment of wisdom and courage. Homage to all lineage masters of great kindness. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in millions of eons. Now I have the fortune to see, hear, and uphold it. May I fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please generate supreme and excellent bodhicitta. Now we continue studying the suffering of human beings in the words of my perfect teacher. Among human sufferings, today we introduce the seventh one, the suffering of not getting what we want. This so-called suffering of not getting what we want occurs because in this world, human desires are unlimited. Each person's profession, status, interests, and identity are all different. Therefore, the goals they seek are also diverse. But sometimes these goals cannot be achieved. Often these goals cannot be reached. At such times, people experience tremendous suffering in their hearts. They see that others have already obtained the wealth, status, beautiful forms, and everything else they themselves desire. Yet they themselves often cannot reach such circumstances or happiness. Therefore, they suffer tremendously in their hearts. The Abhidharma Mahavibhasa Shastra also states, when we seek what we desire but fail to achieve it, this gives rise to various sufferings. This is called the suffering of not getting what we want. This so-called suffering of not getting what we want occurs when many people wish to obtain satisfactory answers or the goals they hope for in their hearts, but often they cannot achieve them. Your desires cannot match the external wealth, status, and so forth that you seek. At such times, without spiritual cultivation, suffering arises in the mind. So in our daily interactions with many people in the world, most people's sufferings, their afflictions and worries, are largely the suffering of not getting what they want. They think too much, especially people in today's society, because they see too much and hear too much, and the goals they pursue have become too diverse. For example, just seeing others wearing very nice clothes, eating delicious delicacies, living in mansions and driving nice cars. For people in the city, when those around them often have such enjoyments and wealth, they feel especially sad when they cannot achieve the same. Therefore, we Buddhist practitioners who have contemplated the suffering of samsara, when conditions from all aspects are favorable, can accept these enjoyments. If they truly cannot reach such goals, they also realize that struggling desperately is actually useless. Therefore, they can face it calmly. So our society today truly needs spiritual nourishment. With spiritual nourishment in the human world, no matter what circumstances one encounters, one has a kind of courage and strength. Otherwise, feeling extremely unlucky and unsuccessful in this world, the more one thinks this way, the more one becomes directionless due to mental pressure. So generally speaking, the suffering of not getting what we want is actually when what we pursue in our hearts goes against reality and our wishes. We can put it this way. The commentary on the Benevolent King Sutra states, when circumstances go against our wishes, this is the suffering of not getting what we want. That is, when reality and our wishes and desires often cannot be aligned. This is the suffering of not getting what we want. The Sutra of the Collection of the Six Perfections also says, when circumstances go against our wishes, worry and sorrow cause harm. When circumstances and wishes are already in conflict and we cannot achieve our desires, at that time, there is a kind of worry, sadness, and suffering in the mind that instead harms our body and mind. So those of us who have studied Mahayana treatises in our daily lives, when we obtain the objects we seek, naturally we rejoice, because you sought this thing, and if you obtain it, you're very happy. It's worth celebrating. If you don't obtain it, you shouldn't be overly sad either. This is a natural law in the world. Any matter has extremely complex and numerous causes and conditions. When these causes and conditions are complete, without effort, naturally many things succeed. If these causes and conditions are not complete, no matter how much you suffer, it's useless. So I feel that in today's era, many people's psychology is particularly unbalanced, unhappy, with much sadness. Buddhism's wonderful medicine truly heals everyone's inner wounds very quickly. In preventing mental injuries, Buddhism's nectar medicine is indeed very important. If a person's mind is very healthy, then even if the body has some illness, it's not very serious. Of course, the happiest situation, I think, is when a person has both physical health and mental health. When both types of health are present, even without wealth, status, or any enjoyments, one can live happily in the human world. Some people, though physically healthy, have many mental problems and issues. They live daily in especially nice houses, eat well and dress well, but because of mental illness, they suffer attacks every day. Once it attacks, any external material resources are useless. Some people have very healthy minds, but indeed poor physical health, going to hospitals every day. This situation also exists. So, in many aspiration prayers, it is also said that physical and mental health are indispensable in life. Buddhism's view of compassion and Buddhist philosophy of life, if we truly tame our minds, indeed play a great role in mental health. Among our Buddhist practitioners, some people in their past lives were completely like crazy people, unable to face their life, emotions, and many other aspects. Later, after studying Buddhism through various causes and conditions, they came to understand. They feel that their behavior and actions before studying Buddhism were completely those of a madman, and they often scold themselves. Well, let me stick to reading the text, otherwise I won't be able to keep up later. I'm reading a bit slowly too. Never mind, if there are elaborations, I'll discuss them later, okay? The text continues. In this world, it can be said that there is no one who doesn't hope for their own happiness and joy. From childhood, upon coming to this world, liking happiness and avoiding all suffering, this doesn't need to be learned. This is our innate feeling and innate pursuit. From childhood, we all want happiness, but those who truly experience happiness are almost non-existent. There are none who truly get what they wish for. Some people build houses for comfort and ease, but unexpectedly the house collapses and they lose their lives. Some people very much want to build their houses well, but in the process of construction, someone once wanted to dig a retreat cave and began excavating the mountain, but before he could finish, he was buried underground. He buried himself. Some people enjoy food and drink to satisfy their hunger, nourishing their bodies well, eating and dressing well every day, but instead contract diseases that endanger their lives. Because they ate too much, took medicines, ate all kinds of things, they ended up getting sick and leaving this world. Some people rush to battlefields to achieve victory, but end up losing their lives. Some people desperately engage in commerce and business to seek profit, but end up being ruined by enemies, losing everything and becoming beggars. These are things that everyone can see in the world. Moreover, everyone's hopes are different. For example, farmers hope to obtain grain and have bountiful harvests, while intellectuals seek achievement in their studies. Some worldly people, such as civil servants and leaders, seek high positions in the political world. When we sometimes observe people in different corners of society, each person has some goals in their heart. Some goals are very long-term, some are short-sighted, some are just for food and clothing, while others, like Buddhists, I often feel that Mahayana Buddhism has the most incredible goals among all human objectives. Why? Because its goal spans a very long time, until Buddhahood, and has a very vast scope, benefiting all sentient beings. People now called especially excellent in the world basically gain recognition by providing some assistance, help, and donations to some people. So Buddhism's genuine aspiration power is very great. A certain teacher often says, "Great aspiration, great power." I particularly like this. Indeed, the work she does is also inconceivable and very vast. For each of us, it depends on whether your aspirations are great. If your aspirations are great, such power and opportunities will naturally appear. For example, if you think, "I want to live my life well," then all your actions will revolve around this struggle. If you think, "I want to help all people or all sentient beings in the world who have difficulties," such conditions can also mature in a short time. So in the world, often the suffering of not getting what we want all stems from very narrow thinking, that is, for oneself. I haven't achieved this goal, I haven't obtained this wealth, I haven't obtained this position. It's all suffering centered around oneself. How many of us shed tears for the sake of sentient beings? Apart from noble beings, there probably aren't many. So I think many of us here should consider that there are many people suffering from not getting what they want, but very few who truly suffer for the sake of others. Although people work diligently and earnestly to obtain satisfaction from happiness and enjoyments in this life, if they lack the karmic conditions from past lives, even solving temporary basic needs becomes problematic. Not only do they bring suffering upon themselves, but they also implicate others. In the end, what they get is only falling into the abyss of lower realms, never to be liberated. So people in the world all hope for happiness, wealth, and especially good aspirations. But if they lack the karmic conditions from past lives, not only do they not obtain these, many people can't even achieve basic sustenance. When I was young, some neighbors and people next door, some people worked hard their entire lives. When I was very young, there was a relative who constantly struggled for his own goals and livelihood. From a very young age, he was exceptionally hardworking. His whole life was like this. A while ago, I saw him at the monastery. He was still working hard, but unsuccessful, just for his own small goal of happiness and wealth, but he couldn't achieve his goal. This indeed requires certain karmic conditions from past lives. It's the same for us monastics and lay people. Why are there so many people in society, some of the same age or from the same group, but some people are often unsuccessful? For example, each of our Dharma friends, among your classmates, you came from the same classroom, but later people's fortune is completely different. In the same family, with the same parents, the karmic conditions and merit of siblings are completely different. So we have to acknowledge that beyond what we imagine, karmic causes from past lives are indispensable. I remember there's such a story in the Buddhist sutras. It should be in an Indian city with many wealthy people. These wealthy people's houses were all gathered in one place called Billionaire District. Now, billionaires all live together, equivalent to some villa districts in big cities today. There was a person who particularly wanted to become a member there. He worked diligently his whole life. Just when he was close to becoming a billionaire, he unfortunately fell ill and was about to die. At this time, he told his wife, "My property, wife, and son, you two must work hard to protect them. After I die, my only wish is for my son to become a member of the Billionaire District." After he died, his wife also believed in her son's ability and wisdom and handed over all the wealth to her son. But within just a few days, the son gave away all the property as offerings and charity, spent it all. After some time, the son also unfortunately fell ill and passed away. At that time, the wife saw that she had no husband, no son, and no property. She had basically become a beggar. She was extremely sad. Later, after some time, the richest person in the Billionaire District seemed very old, already in his 80s. At that time, perhaps having a child or something, I forgot some details. But this child from childhood wouldn't eat or drink no matter how they tried to feed him. Later, they thought this was strange and wondered who in the city could feed him. His original mother thought, "Let me try to see if there's a way." So she went, and he gladly accepted all the food she fed him. From then on, that wealthy person also let her, because having a child at 80 was not easy, let her come. Later, he recognized his own mother through the merit of making offerings and giving charity, because people's karmic conditions are all different. At that time, the karmic conditions for receiving the benefits of offerings and charity hadn't ripened in this lifetime. But he was immediately reborn among the wealthy in the Billionaire District, becoming one of their members. So some aspirational forces. We have to acknowledge karmic conditions from past lives in the world. Now, some Buddhists, from their words and behavior, it can be seen that they seem indifferent to future lives. Whatever happens in this life is fine with me. This is the approach of materialist believers. Truly not caring about future lives and only looking at this life is like those in the world who only look at today, not tomorrow or the future. Such people are equally frightening. Some of us, from childhood, perhaps have some relationship with the education received and the environment of growth. Even if they superficially acknowledge the existence of future lives, they don't particularly focus on accumulating merit for future lives. Such behavior is not very reasonable. So the ancient masters said, diligence like a mountain king is not as good as accumulating small merit. Diligence like a mountain king, no matter how diligent, actually doesn't serve much purpose. It's not as good as accumulating a little merit, small accumulation of merit. This merit is greater. So sometimes, relying on one's own diligent effort, one cannot necessarily achieve great accomplishments. So whatever we do, for example, if I want to accomplish some work or do anything today, on one hand, you work on this matter, and on the other hand, you should spend money on sutra recitations and create merit. In this way, the favorable conditions for completing this task will be very strong. What use are the endless trivial matters of samsara? In this world, what use are the endless trivial matters of samsara? From beginningless time until now, many people have put all their energy into these trivial matters of samsara. But what result? Nothing, only suffering. From beginningless time until now, samsara just keeps turning like this. People in the world today are the same. Becoming parents, then having children, after having children, starting families again. After starting families, having children again, and so on. Samsara just turns like this endlessly, continuously turning. Beyond this, there's no meaning. Always in samsara, repeatedly father and son, enemies and friends, or forming various karmic connections. Never cutting off such seeds. If you don't cut off the seeds, you will forever remain in samsara, and this suffering will never end. So, when we practice the 4 preliminary practices, genuine renunciation from the heart toward all of samsara is extremely important. What result is there? No result, only suffering. Previously, for the goals of this life's worldly affairs, most people work hard throughout their first and second halves of life. If this diligent effort were used in practicing the true Dharma, they would probably have achieved Buddhahood by now. Even if they hadn't become Buddha, they definitely wouldn't have to experience the suffering of lower realms again. If most of us took our efforts toward worldly trivial matters, towards supporting families, worldly mental and behavioral efforts, the efforts that most people make in their first or second half of life, if all this diligent effort were used for the true Dharma, those with sharp faculties would have already become Buddha. Even if they hadn't become Buddha, they would certainly be assured of not falling into the 3 lower realms. Now, in our academy, many taxi drivers get up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I often see when I go upstairs after classes that they sleep in their cars at night, then get up at 3 in the morning to solicit passengers there. To Luhuo, anyone going to Luhuo? Barkam, always there. If they started getting up at 3 or 4 o'clock and then generated bodhicitta, working so hard for sentient beings, what would they achieve in just over 10 years? Even if you didn't become Buddha, seeing through the world, you should be a remarkable great achiever. If you put all your time and energy, the protagonist in The Knot that I mentioned the other day spent 60 years constantly thinking about one person. If you spent 60 years continuously visualizing Amitabha, always thinking of Buddha, the generation stage would definitely have been accomplished long ago. But people in the world put their thoughts and energy entirely into things that have no meaning whatsoever. A book once said that all emotions are a magic trick that wastes time, youth, money, and time. When you look at it later, it's all empty, like drawing water with a bamboo basket, all in vain. It's actually like this. Many people in the world waste all their energy, time, and years entirely on meaningless things. As a result, when you truly face birth, aging, sickness, and death, what do we get? Nothing at all. Even if you have some wealth, it all remains in the human world. Look at how many wealthy people in the world today have departed. When they left, they couldn't take even a penny with them. Some leaders of major countries in the world, such as presidents and national leaders of countries with over 1 billion people, when they departed, let alone over 1 billion people, they couldn't take even one person with them. These are things we witness with our own eyes. So the many truths about birth, aging, sickness, and death that Buddha taught here, I think people with genuine wisdom can still understand them. This is completely reasoning with people, not suppressing them with authority. So here it teaches that we should think in our hearts. Now that I already know the distinction between abandoning evil and following good, at this moment I must not put my energy into accomplishing endless trivial matters of samsara. I must practice the true Dharma. Now we have relied on spiritual teachers and encountered Mahayana Buddhism. Through the teachings of many sutras and treatises, we completely understand the basic principles of practicing virtue and abandoning evil. So from today onward, my remaining time, energy, years, and all wisdom must absolutely not be used for meaningless worldly trivial matters. If you use 100% entirely for practice, probably we now, apart from some great masters of the former Kadampa and Nyingma schools, we now simply cannot do it, especially people in cities. They feel that freeing up one day or half a day in a week makes them particularly amazed. Look how good my practice is. Why? Previously I used all my time entirely for eating, drinking, and entertainment. Now, in 1 week, I use half a day entirely for studying Dharma, hearing, contemplating, and meditating. Think about it. How high is my realization? Many people think this way. Actually, compared to before, you indeed have progress. But if you compare yourself with genuine practitioners, think about it. In 7 days, half a day is used for practice, while 6.5 days are entirely used for worldly trivial matters. You say it's half a day, but whether it's actually half a day is unknown. Perhaps it's just listening to 2 classes and calling it half a day. Maybe it's only 2 hours. In comparison, the monastics in our academy indeed, from morning to night, apart from hearing, contemplating, and meditating, very few people might have some distractions. Most people have their time scheduled very tightly. Yesterday, a Dharma friend said, "Oh my! In the morning we listen to classes, give teachings, listen to classes, and prepare lessons. Oh my ears are buzzing." This is also very good. For virtuous Dharma, whether it's Om or Wa, we also very much hope that practice will continue like this. How many years you live, study for that many years. It's best to spend your old age not being too immersed in worldly trivial matters. Worldly trivial matters, when truly observed with wisdom, at the time you're immersed in them, you probably don't know, just like many young people now probably won't know. But when you leave this world, you will understand that actually there was nothing, finally going empty-handed on the long path of the bardo. So everyone should try their best to spend time on practice, more or less. Completely abandoning the world might be somewhat difficult, but it's best to still use it for practice. This is very important for everyone. The above discusses the suffering of not getting what we want. Next we discuss the 8th one, the suffering of encountering what we don't want. In our daily lives, we often encounter things we absolutely don't want, but many sufferings naturally befall us. They've already come. There's no way around it. Often we don't want to get sick, but suddenly we fall ill. We don't want to be bound by others. But when your karmic conditions manifest, there's no way. You become bound by others. Many things we originally don't want, but you have no choice. You can't escape from them. Now, many employees, some students, teachers, they're always under some kind of pressure and control. There's no way out. It's like being in prison. This is also a human suffering. We can be certain that there's not a single person in this world who hopes to suffer hardships. But even if they don't want to, they must experience it. There's not one person who hopes to experience suffering. From childhood, we all want to obtain happiness and don't want to accept suffering. But those who truly get their wishes and don't experience suffering, apart from a very few practitioners and some who have gained freedom over life and death, there are none. For example, due to the force of past karma, those who become subjects of kings, servants of wealthy people, and so forth, they're completely not in control of themselves. Even unwillingly, they must be controlled by their masters. As I just mentioned, many people don't want to be employees under a boss, but there's no choice. You have such karmic conditions from past lives, including some people who don't want to listen to Dharma, but must listen. I don't know what the reason is. They don't want to listen to Dharma and feel troubled, but they must stay here and listen. This is also blown here by karmic forces. There's no way around it. Even if they commit only the most trivial mistakes, Great disasters befall them, leaving them helpless. Even if they're immediately taken to the execution ground, they can only grit their teeth and follow. Indeed, it's like this. No rights at all, absolutely no way to escape. No matter what, body and mind are entirely under leaders and masters. They have no rights whatsoever, absolutely no way out. From this example, we can understand the so-called suffering of encountering what we don't want. Actually, sometimes in our worldly existence, for example, we don't want to commit crimes, yet we become criminals. We don't want to break discipline, yet we become rule breakers, including some monastics who very much want to be pure monks, but due to their own karmic conditions manifesting, there's no way. Even in this lifetime, they cannot become pure monastics. Even in future lives, this karmic condition continues. For example, like Su Dongpo in the past, there's a book that says Su Dongpo was initially a very pure monastic called Master Wuji. You've probably also seen many stories about him, because Su Dongpo in the Song dynasty was a very famous writer and painter, and also held relatively high positions in worldly government service. He also made certain contributions to Buddhism as a layperson, but he himself said he was a monk in his past life. He wrote a poem called Nanhua Temple. When he once made a pilgrimage to Nanhua Temple, he composed an inspired poem saying, "I was originally a practitioner for 3 lives accumulating refinement." Refinement basically means merit, like accumulating merit. In the middle, one thought was lost, receiving this 100 years punishment. His meaning is, I was originally a practitioner, continuously accumulating merit for 3 lifetimes, doing quite well. But because of one moment's error, one thought's mistake, I experienced such suffering for 100 years. The meaning is that in his past life, he was called Master Wuji, the abbot of a monastery. Later, he apparently found an orphan, a girl, and had one of the monks under him raise her. After she grew up, he developed one moment of attachment toward her, and later broke his vows for this reason. There was another monk called Master Mingwu who felt that his Dharma brother had become like this and might slander the Dharma in future lives. To save him, he was reborn together with him and later became Chan Master Foyin. This is also quite widely accepted in China because when Su Dongpo's mother was pregnant, she had a dream of a monk with one blind eye entering her womb. When many people have dreams and many conditions come together, people consider him to be his reincarnation. Moreover, he himself, around age 7 or 8, remembered that he was previously a monk. He could recall this, and as a layperson, he particularly liked wearing monastic robes, including when wearing official clothes. He often wore monk's robes underneath. I heard it's like this. Some people say, why are there no tulkus in China? There are tulkus. Su Dongpo should be an example. So what I just discussed, a person originally, for example, Master Wuji was very pure. But later, due to his own karmic connections, unwanted suffering came upon him, we could say. This also had a certain impact on his future lives. Of course, because you were ordained, studied Buddhism, and gained wisdom in past lives, your future life is also completely different from others. We all know that some of Su Dongpo's poetry, Buddhist studies, and altruistic heart were in all respects completely different from others. So we say, good deeds bring good results, evil deeds bring evil results. And the reason why cause and effect are precise to the smallest detail is found here. Here, omniscient Longchenpa said, though family and friends wish to never be apart, living together dependently, they will definitely separate. This should be from the treasury of pith instructions. That is to say, in the world, many things are not what we want, but such suffering naturally comes upon you. For example, in the world, family members and your friends and relatives, people with whom you have good relationships, you want to never be apart, everyone happy together, nestled together, helping each other, living together like this. But it's impossible. At a certain time, those who will die might die. And some who don't die still separate from each other while alive. It's impossible for everyone to gather together. At that time, you might often think of your family members. Raising my head, I gaze at the bright moon. Lowering my head, I think of my hometown. From Li Bai's Quiet Night Thought. Do you miss home? many monastics, how about it? Having left family and friends, finally contemplating alone about their former family and friends. This is also a kind of worldly suffering. Longchen Pa's meaning is also like this. So, though you wish to never leave beautiful dwellings and live there long, you will definitely depart. Beautiful residences, your monastery, house, or academy, you want to never leave. I'll live here forever. I won't go back. It will always be like this. But it's also impossible. When conditions dissolve at a certain time, definitely, let alone long term, you might not even have a moment to stay. For each person, some are due to individual beings' karma manifesting, and some are due to collective karma manifesting. At that time, even if you very much want to live in one place, it's impossible. Some lay people think that after buying a house, it will always be theirs. That's not necessarily so. Everyone's karmic conditions are different. Though you wish to never be apart from happiness and enjoyments and enjoy them long, you will definitely abandon them. The happy life that worldly people experience and the possessions they use, they themselves want to never be separated from them, to forever enjoy such happy, fulfilling, joyful life. But at a certain time, you might not have the time. The garland of examples. Adorned by poetic fancy also says, treasures in the home are shared by 5 families. We've discussed the 5 families before. You want to use the treasures in your home yourself, but others might end up using them. So you think, this is my house, my property, my happiness. But after some time, it's not necessarily your property. Some Dharma friends think their wallet is their own, but accidentally, the wallet has already been dropped on the road. After dropping it on the road, someone else got the wallet. Yesterday, a Dharma friend said, I dropped my phone. Then at night when calling it said, cannot connect. Called again, no one answered. Called again, already turned off. What's the reason? I said, this is your property being enjoyed by others. His phone dropped. There's no way around it. He thought it was his phone, but it ended up being someone else's. So we ourselves think, this is my thing, but it's not necessarily so. This is shared by 5 families. Everyone should understand this clearly. So the pith instructions taught by Longchen Pa are truly very profound. Though you wish to never be apart from your precious human life and live long in the world, you will definitely die. Our precious human life. Now we have the opportunity to practice. We very much want to continue practicing like this forever, but human life is very short. I often think, how many years in a lifetime does a person truly have for hearing, contemplating, and genuine practice? Awakening to the world's impermanence, life is hard to preserve. The Samyukta Agama states, our life is very difficult to guarantee. Even if your life can still be sustained due to various conditions, you may not necessarily have the opportunity to study Buddhism. There's a person with wrong views who says, then I won't study Buddhism anymore, using the phrase not studying Buddhism to threaten others. You seem to be studying Buddhism now, but after some time, you may not necessarily study Buddhism. So how long one can maintain a precious human life is very hard to say. Though you wish to never be apart from virtuous teachers and always receive true Dharma, you will definitely separate. Virtuous teachers who possess the proper qualities and are very compassionate, having nothing but altruistic hearts, such teachers, many people want to never be separated from their teacher life after life, or in this very life, to never leave their teacher, having such thoughts and aspirations. But this is also impossible. Some teachers have already passed away. Some disciples have passed away. Some teachers and disciples both pass away quickly. Some, though they haven't passed away, due to various conditions, eventually separate. So His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche often quoted this scriptural support, saying, now all of us, teacher and students, gather together to enjoy Mahayana Buddhism, but after some time it will become a beautiful memory. Apart from that, everything will vanish like smoke and clouds. Indeed, it's like this. This is a genuine feeling and experience in our lives. We very much want to always receive true Dharma before such great achievers as our teacher, but do we have such an opportunity. We can say it's impossible to continue like this long term. In all of history, teacher and disciple never separating doesn't exist. So when everyone has the opportunity to receive true Dharma, cherish the time. Though you wish to never be apart from kind Dharma friends and live in harmony, you will definitely separate. Kind Dharma friends with great compassion who benefit sentient beings. With bodhicitta and renunciation, such Dharma friends are hard to find. We very much want to never be apart and live in harmony, but at a certain time we will definitely separate. From today, we should don the armor of diligence and reach the treasure island of great bliss without separation. From now on, we should put on the armor of diligence and reach the state of Buddhahood, the great bliss from which we never need to separate. Before Dharma friends who have developed deep renunciation, I, a beggar without Dharma, offer this advice. Looking at all aspects, before many Dharma friends who have generated deep renunciation, Longchenpa says, indeed, this world sometimes appears to be an environment that generates deep renunciation. Before such a group, I, who have no Dharma, Longchenpa humbly says, I, like a beggar who hasn't accomplished the true Dharma, advise you, or I, a non-effortful yogi who has already realized having nothing to do. He has two meanings. One is humility, the other is saying he's a non-effortful yogi without any attachment. I, Longchenpa, advise you, you should remember the current situation of universal impermanence. Only the good causes of virtue accumulated in the past can give birth to the fruits of wealth, enjoyments, happiness, fame, and so forth. If you have such causes, then good fruits come without seeking. Some people, having accumulated merit in the past, obtain many fruits of positive conditions even without seeking. At Nubzur Monastery in the past, there was someone called Khenpo Ki Wang. I heard many teachings from him. He often said, people with merit, no matter where they go, even if they go to prison, will naturally obtain wealth. After the 1950s, during the Cultural Revolution, many great masters from Tibet were imprisoned at that time for more than 10 or 20 years, because these people's merit manifested. Even in prison, they had more food than they could finish and gave it to many people around them. People without merit starved to death in prison, so even when imprisoned, it's completely different. So people with merit, no matter where they go, are like the former Prince Punyabala and Prince Diligence. Wherever they go, they have their special characteristics. Past life causes are completely different. Conversely, if one doesn't possess such causes, then no matter how conscientious and diligent one is, not only will they not get what they wish for, but the opposite will happen. They'll encounter misfortune. Some people, no matter how hard they work, no matter how tired they get, suffer and feel sad every day. Some people, perhaps due to past life conditions, are always frowning. What to do? What to do? However, one person might put on a smile to avoid criticism, so we should rely on contentment and few desires, this inexhaustible treasure. We should be content and have few desires. Contentment and few desires are indeed an inexhaustible treasure. If we don't concentrate our energy on practicing true Dharma, and after entering the Buddha's door, still busy ourselves with this life's worldly trivial matters, then we can only suffer ourselves and receive the scolding of noble beings. We ourselves still need to practice. Many people have already abandoned what should be abandoned and let go of what should be released. If they still don't practice now and remain indulgent every day, they might feel especially ashamed. Noble beings, Dharma protectors, and Buddhas and Bodhisattvas will also scold them, including Vajra brothers and sisters often say, this person is always busy, saying they've already taken refuge and enrolled to study, but they never study. Today this excuse, tomorrow that excuse. In our Bodhi study groups now, there are some individual Dharma friends who, when studying, are extremely diligent. Basically, for 2 or 3 years, they haven't missed a single class. No matter how busy they are, they can still catch up. This kind of faith in seeking Dharma is especially good. Some people make excuses every day. Today my friend is getting married, I need to take leave. Tomorrow our leader wants to go out and play, I need to take leave. The day after tomorrow my father is sick, I need to take leave. Tomorrow won't work either, my stomach really hurts. So many things. As a result, they waste all their time for studying Buddhism and being diligent. Actually, they can't deceive others. Deceiving others is deceiving themselves. Many people in the past also spoke very reasonably, so if we don't study well, we're still very ashamed. Milarepa also said this. He also saw many phenomena of the degenerate age. Because the following scriptural support is from Milarepa. At that time there was a Geshe Lodun, a friend of the logician Tarlo. Tarlo didn't practice well and used logic every day to point out others' faults. Later, when he passed away, it was quite tragic. Then Lodun became quite afraid and felt he should, seeing that Milarepa and Rinpoche practiced quite well, not only speaking well in theory, but also practicing well. Later, he personally went before Milarepa, and Milarepa transmitted these teachings to him. At first he scolded and criticized him, but later, basically, Lodun could accept all of Milarepa's teachings. He received the most profound teachings of the secret Dharma and eventually became a very remarkable practitioner. This is in the 100,000 Songs of Milarepa. You should take a look yourself. Milarepa said, originally, Buddha, the Lord of the world, taught all dharmas to destroy the 8 winds. How is it that today's self-proclaimed wise ones seem to have increased the 8 worldly concerns instead? Originally, the greatly compassionate Buddha, Lord of the world, taught the 84,000 dharmas to destroy our worldly fame, gain, and the 8 worldly concerns. But today, those who call themselves Buddhists and claim to be wise ones, many Buddhists think they're already remarkable Buddhists, but from the surface, it seems their 8 worldly concerns have increased even more. Many people desperately pursue fame, wealth, and respect. This completely contradicts Buddha's teachings. A leader once said, "You can see monastics even in tea houses." I think this goes against Shakyamuni Buddha's teachings. I said, it's probably okay to see 1 or 2 monastics in tea houses. Monastics can also drink tea. If they do illegal things in tea houses, that's not good. But worldly people now think that whether in tea houses or among different groups in the world, if they discover behavior they consider contrary to Buddhism, this is something each of us can observe. If there really are some people who pursue fame all day for the 8 worldly concerns, promoting themselves every day, never thinking of sentient beings' benefit, thinking only of their own fame and wealth every day, this truly contradicts Buddhist teachings. The Tathagata protected the precepts to cut off worldly affairs and proclaimed them. How is it that today's precept-holding venerable ones seem to have increased trivial matters instead? Our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, in the Vinaya, taught the precepts of individual liberation. The precepts were mainly proclaimed to generate renunciation and cut off all worldly trivial matters. Yet today, those who claim to be monastics or lay practitioners, these precept-holding venerable ones, seem to have more and more worldly trivial matters on the surface. Originally monastics, but the trivial matters they do every day increase more and more. They don't seem like monastics. Some lay people also don't seem like lay people who have seen through this world. So this is also a problem of our current degenerate age. The deportment of monastics in the past was proclaimed by Buddha to cut off relatives. How is it that today's monastic deportment seems to be overly concerned with saving face? The deportment of monastics in Buddha's time was to cut off all connections and attachments to relatives and friends. Today's monastic deportment, isn't it already especially concerned with saving face for their relatives and friends? They're especially caring, making phone calls every day. They cry on the phone, "Let me talk to mother, then let sister-in-law listen, let sister listen." Some monastics, when making phone calls, care more about their families than lay people do. In short, if one doesn't contemplate death, practicing the true Dharma is futile. In summary, if we don't contemplate death, this practice is definitely futile. All practice just to maintain some affairs of this life. Such practice cannot succeed. Generally speaking, humans in the 4 continents have no happiness to speak of. Especially we who are born in Jambudvipa are now in the midst of the 5 degenerations, without a trace of happiness, only experiencing suffering. Though samsara is extremely painful due to ignorance, we don't realize it ourselves. Master Shantideva said this, "Sentient beings are drowning in the river of suffering. Alas, how pitiful! There's a scriptural citation meaning samsara is extremely painful, but we're too ignorant, we don't feel it ourselves and still think it's very happy. Oh, this society now is becoming happier and more developed. Actually, each generation is worse than the last. The 20th century was basically a century of bloodshed and conflict. The 21st century, on the surface, many machines and weapons should be more advanced than before, but our human nature, theories, and ethical morality have all declined. Human greed, anger, and ignorance increasingly grow, and suffering far exceeds the past. If this continues, people's suffering will be even more inconceivable. Year after year, month after month, day after day, morning and evening pass in an instant. Times become increasingly polluted, the kalpa becomes increasingly evil, the dharma increasingly declines, and sentient beings' happiness gradually diminishes and deteriorates. Thinking of these things naturally gives rise to feelings of sadness. Moreover, Jambudvipa is a place of karma. All excellence and inferiority, suffering and happiness, misfortune and fortune, good and evil, high and low, dharma and non-dharma, etc., are all uncertain. Don't consider many current things as permanent, they're uncertain. By examining the obvious facts in our daily lives, we will definitely make choices in our mental continuum. Omniscient Longchenpa said in the Treasury of Pith Instructions, sometimes observe the favorable conditions of self-arising. Knowing self-arising experiences become helpful companions. We're currently studying the Treasury of Pith Instructions, so I won't explain this temporarily due to time constraints. Actually, this is easy to explain. Sometimes observe your many favorable conditions. After knowing them, they become companions of experience. Sometimes observe harmful adverse conditions. This is the great essential point for cutting off deluded attachment. Sometimes you need to observe others harming you and various adverse conditions. At that time, you'll cut off some great essential points. Sometimes when encountering adverse conditions, you might truly awaken. Others create adverse conditions for you, originally wanting to harm you. But in this process, when you observe your mind, you completely understand. Not to mention great awakening, perhaps you've had some small awakening. Sometimes observe Dharma friends and their teachers. Knowing excellence and inferiority promotes one's actual practice. Sometimes observe other teachers and Dharma friends. At this time, knowing what's good and what's not good, you'll also make progress in your practice. Sometimes observe the magical transformations of the four elements. Knowing the mind's nature has no effort. Sometimes observe various phenomena of the four elements in space, or the changes of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. At that time, the phenomenon of appearing for a while and then disappearing naturally leads to immediate realization of your mind's nature. Sometimes observe your own buildings and wealth. Knowing their illusory dispels deluded attachment. Sometimes observe your own house, others' houses, many buildings and possessions. At that time, you'll know they're illusory and dreamlike. There's nothing to be attached to. I started with a grass hut, then a plank house, then a shell house, then a concrete house. Finally, they're all left in the human world when you leave. There's nothing to be attached to. Sometimes observe others' dependence and wealth, generate compassion, and cut off samsaric greed. Sometimes observe others' dependence, your own possessions, others' possessions. This generates great compassion. It's nothing, people are so attached, but in the end, they have nothing. This cuts off grasping attachment. In short, toward all various manifest phenomena, observe their nature and destroy deluded real attachment. In summary, whether good or bad, observe all the various things around you. This greatly helps destroy your real attachment. So, when we study the Treasury of Pith Instructions, we should observe carefully. The many contents taught within are truly extremely excellent. We should follow what the Master taught and practice it in reality. Good.
Bandara Padma Sada Bandara Padma Sada